I remember I was lost because by then I was just driving aimlessly, and there was a sign, a physical sign that said, CBS, our eye is on you, Greenville, New Center 15. I was like, New Center 15? Okay, let me go get that rejection. I need a map. I don't have a map. And that was when you needed a map. And so I went in there, and I'll never forget this guy. He was 5 feet tall. He's like, hey, girl. I was like, hey, I'm the news director. I'm like, hi. He goes, I was sports director. And then Joe Macione promoted me to news director. I was like, oh my God, you're the news director. This is amazing. Anyway, here's the worst tape in history is what my eyes were saying. And he took that tape, and I still remember it. And I'm looking at this short guy taking my tape, sticking it in the machine. And I just practically have my hand out, like, give me that thing back so I can just, and he just kept watching it. And Jamie, I watched him watch that tape. And all of a sudden, like, blood was pumping, my heart was pounding. I'm like, oh my gosh, this man is watching this horrible tape. He went past the part where everyone ejected it, me with standing in front of the Tridell house or whatever it was, so bad. And all of a sudden, he stops that tape and he looks at me and he goes, he was calling me Hilda when I walked in, but I didn't even correct him because, what's your name, Hilda? All right, come on, girl. I was like, it doesn't matter, just call me. And he goes, Hilda? And I go, yeah. He goes, I like what I see. I was like, I burst out into tears. That man single-handedly changed the course of my life in that 1 minute.
So that leads me into one more thing. So yeah, I can picture say, okay, I know I got to find my purpose. I know I have something inside of me. I want to do more. But the term that I hear more than anything, and we have in our companies and my following, like right now, our whole demographic is about 62% women right now. And the one thing I hear a lot with women and guys too, but as they evolve into their like own thing or try to scale, is the term imposter syndrome. I feel like I'm an imposter. Yeah. My friends don't see it that way. Maybe my parents don't see me in that light. My husband might not see me in that light. So that rubs off enough where I have self-doubt, which yes. I felt self-doubt most of my life. You just got to overcome it. But that term imposter syndrome, there had to be times when you walked out of a meeting and turned no and said, well, who am I? I'm such an idiot for trying. I don't have makeup. I don't have the right body. I have rosacea. I don't have money. I've never been in the cosmetic world. I should just quit and go back to what I know.
Yeah. Yeah. The very first most important thing is I love so much you're talking about this because when you scroll Instagram, you don't see people going, I have imposter syndrome today. No, you see their highlight reel and you think you're alone in it. I believe this is the most important thing to know. I believe every single person, like maybe few exceptions, I don't know, has imposter syndrome. I remember hearing Oprah. I do. Yeah, always. Yeah. And I remember Oprah talking about all the moments, I mean, this is growing up, but all the moments where she has felt that way. When she started her career, she tried to be like Barbara Walters on air instead of herself. Like, right? So she has her own evolution. I believe every person, just about every person out there has it. And I think once you know that, it's so like healing in a way because you know, okay, I'm feeling like I'm not qualified right now. I'm feeling like I don't belong. I'm feeling all those things. But guess what? Every person who's literally ever built anything great that I'm aware of, when you ask them, they'll share that they go through that too. So the very first thing is just knowing that it's there. The second thing, and I think this is so important, and this is why I keep saying like doing, and I talk so much about this in the book because I did so many things wrong, Dean, in this journey, and made so many mistakes that I hope when people read about them, it'll save them many nights crying themselves to sleep and they won't make those mistakes. But like one of the things that I did really, really right was really know how to hear my own truth and then trust it, right? And the times I didn't do that are the times we had big failures. The times I listened to even visionaries and experts sometimes, it's great to listen to them, but when something they're saying doesn't truly align with your gut, that's when you've got to put your gut on a pedestal over experts' advice. And when it comes to imposter syndrome specifically, a couple things. Self-doubt, which gets fueled so much by, of course, rejection, of course, other people's opinions, of course, things not going your way. I love this example. And in case someone needs to hear this out there, it's this imaginary thing that I do, but I think it's a powerful tool you can implement in your own life right now. And you have to do it intentionally. When you share your dream with your partner or your mom or your neighbor or an expert, whatever it is, and you can tell they're not feeling it, they're doubting you, whatever it is, you have to learn to take your own imaginary volume dial, right? Your own microphone back. You have to turn down the volume on that. You cannot go back to them again and keep talking about your dream, because all of a sudden you're letting all of that speak into you. It is so important to know this, whether it's your friends in the circle around you or whether it's experts that are doubting you. If your gut is telling you you're on the right track, right? What you have to get really good at is turning down the volume on everyone else. And you have to find people that understand, that dream big, that are in community. And you don't want people telling you BS, like they have to be telling you the truth, but you want people that speak into you. You have to turn up the volume on your own truth. And it's this imaginary thing I do. And I literally, in my own head, Dean, when I hear someone reject me now, I mean, I'm so good at hearing rejection. And to this day, I get rejected. Right? But to this day, I get rejected all the time for stuff. All the time I have this idea or that idea, and you know what I mean? Or I want to do this, and I get rejected all the time to this day. Which, by the way, back to our point, all this hardship we're going through, it makes us strong enough to be able to carry the weight of where we're called to go. So where I'm called to go, I'm still getting rejection, but I'm strong enough now where I don't cry myself to sleep 3 nights in a row like I did for many years. Right?
I wrote a whole chapter once called The Power of You Can't, because you can't, or rejection can be cumulative, where you go, hey, I had 100 no's. I don't have a good brand here. Let me go back to what I was doing. Simultaneously, though, that with a little proof, you realize the more no's is just the build to the yes. Like it's either your fuel or your anchor, right? And, and I love how you're sharing that. And I want everybody to really think through that. You can take rejection. I mean, the worst part is sometimes we take advice about dating or our relationship from our single friend, or money advice from our broke friend, and we let it sink in. And Jamie, you said it so right. Like, we go back to them 5 or 10 times trying to resell them, while simultaneously we're just building more self-doubt for ourselves, because each time you're not breaking through. It doesn't mean your idea is not great. It means they're not qualified, or they don't have the vision, or they tried something and failed. And one more thing I want to share on that. I had a dear friend who has passed. He was born with a rare disease. They told his parents he had a couple of weeks to live, and he lived till 42. And had a freak accident in his wheelchair. It's the only reason he's not with us. His name is Sean Stevenson. He was 3 foot tall. He broke 280 bones in his body and was the most confident, dynamic, amazing man you'd ever meet. Like, just when he walked in a room, as he said, you guys aren't as lucky as me. When I walk in a room, you might have a couple people look. He goes, I get everybody looking at me. Right? Like, that's the kind of man he was, right? Yeah. He's like, so don't be jealous. They're all going to look at me. Don't be jealous. And he'd walk in a room and go, hey, everybody. Hi, I know, right? That's what kind of guy he was. But he was also a psychologist and obsessed on helping relieve people of suffering. And I just want to share one thing that came to mind when you were talking. He said, so many times in life, we don't realize when we have a dream, a goal, a desire, a passion, if the people around us that we spend too much time with don't support us, we feel bad for burning our light so bright. So what we do is we turn it down. And I just, when he said that, I'm like, wow. He said, do not turn your light down. Burn so bright that eventually they'll come to the light. And if they don't, that's okay. They have their own journey. And it just made me think of that. Like, don't dare turn down your glow for someone else.
Yeah. And so many times people feel like they need to listen because it's their partner or their family or their close friends. They've been friends for 20 years. And so many people, they love, like, and here's the thing, a lot of people around you, they love you. They want the best for you. They're giving you their best advice that they don't believe in your dream. They're giving, like, they care about you. They have good hearts, but like, they only see things through their own lens of experience and limitations. And they're doing the best they can. And it's hard sometimes to go, okay, I need to love all of them from a new boundary, a new distance. And I'm going to talk with them about The Bachelor tonight, or I'm going to talk about the weather or what we're going to cook for dinner Friday. But like, I'm going to talk to these other people. I'm going to bring new people in my circle that when I want to dream big and I want to like get the right kind of feedback, even when it's critical, the right kind of feedback, because people really get it, that, you know, that's when you turn the volume up on those people. And then that's when you still love all the people that you love, but like, exactly, because energy is contagious, right? So
Absolutely.
exactly what you just said, if somebody, the more you have that around you, not only the more you dim your light, but I feel like subconsciously as human beings, we start to dim our own light also to have love and acceptance around us and to match everyone else's energy, and we lower our vibration. It's contagious. So just being mindful of that is so powerful. You know what I mean?
Yeah. I mean, at the end of your life, if we get the chance to sit down with our maker, whoever you believe your maker is, would you want to say, you know, thank you for putting me on this earth. Thank you for making me a human. You know, I lived a good life. I was going to do more, but you know, my husband, my friend, my mom, my sister, my friend, they thought I was kind of crazy with my dreams, and I didn't want to make them feel bad. So, you know, I lived a good life, and I had some pretty cool accomplishments. Like, I don't think we want that. I think that would be a moment as it was coming out of your mouth. You'd be like, could I get it? Could I go do a do-over, please? Give me one more shot. I want to go. Like, I think more than anything, we would love to be able to say, hey, you know, my friends weren't as crazy and didn't see the potential I had in me, and that was okay for them, but I went for it anyway. I think we'd be okay, even more so than a good life, to say my life was kind of a roller coaster, but I went for it. I found my dreams. I overcame the imposter syndrome. I overcame rejection. I went for it. And I don't think you can end that story if you get up, you know, you say, if you fail once, what do you do? Try again. If you fail another 100 times, what do you do? You try 100 different other ways to overcome it. I don't think you can have that conversation without saying, and finally I had the breakthrough and I got to lean into this full potential and I got to live a more fulfilled life. And I feel like I squeezed all the juice out of life. Thank you for giving me this opportunity. I think of those crazy things in my life when I'm going to let someone's opinion stop me or a no stop me. I'm like, what am I going to say to God when I'm sitting next to him, that I wasted this life he gave me? Hell no.
Because of someone's fear of rejection. I love this. So anyone listening right now who needs this, like even taking that story you just shared, right? And it's like remembering that when you're about to be afraid to do something because you don't want to face rejection, right? And go, which would you rather have? Would you rather have stay in your comfort zone and not be rejected? Or would you, right? But then arrive on that day knowing, oh, I didn't step into all the person I was born to be.
I know.
Right? So which is stronger?
And the other thing too is the reason I love that you wrote this book. I love this book and I can't wait to get the audio because I've already gone through so much of it reading, but I love listening to audios. But here's what I want to say to everybody. Some of you are thinking right now, Dean, Jamie, this sounds amazing. I love listening to you, but I don't have a lot of positive people in my life. Here's what I want to tell you. Neither did I. And I don't mean that in a bad way. I love my family. But I had to turn to books. I still listen to a book on audio every day of my life while I exercise. And I exercise probably 6 days a week. So 6 days a week, there's an audio in my ears because that's the people I surround myself with. When I want to learn how to overcome rejection, obstacles, be better at marketing, sales, I find people who've already been there. And I find people who are playing the game at the highest level. And I find people that are willing and amazing enough to take the time to dedicate their life and their story to share what they've been through. And that's what you've done. So today, I love the fact that we're sharing this, but if this resonates with you, then go make sure you, first of all, go to Instagram and say hi to Jamie, because she's got a great page. And I know you don't do a million things there, but I love everything you're doing on your Instagram. But also, I know your book's coming out. If anything we did today resonates, go grab this book, share it with a friend. This podcast, take a screenshot, put it on Instagram and tell your friends if they need this, if they feel rejected, they want another level, they feel burned out, they don't feel they're living on purpose. Get them to listen to this podcast so you can help them. Listen, I do podcasts every week. I don't get paid to do podcasts. I don't even run ads on my podcast. We do this to give back to our community. And I would be doing you a disservice if I didn't say that to not go get this book and learn more. And especially we got to touch a little bit. I know you've shared so many secrets in the book. So I go on a rant because I know what this could do for people, but why did you You don't need to do anything. You don't need to write a book, Jamie. You could be sitting on a beach right now with like 10 Coronas or pina coladas lined up and your kids playing in the sand and your husband, kite surfing or something.
Jimmy, it's a compelling story. What you share with a lot of successful entrepreneurs is most of us only hear the $1.2 billion sale to L'Oreal. They don't realize that you had hundreds and thousands of no's for years and years, and you were selling one or two products a day for years, and down to your last $1,000. You applied to 20 plus SBA loans. They all said no. Finally, the last one said yes, so that you could go all in on the inventory for QVC and then own it all if you didn't sell it all. And you have now been on hundreds of podcasts for this book that you're donating to a great philanthropic organization. One of the big insights I took away from the QVC experience was that you said every time you hit a goal, you never felt joy, but rather you felt relief. Mm-hmm. And that really hit me because, like you, I am a small budding entrepreneur with some one or two orders coming in a day, right? And I'm looking long-term at my own success. And I want to feel joy in accomplishing goals, not relief. But I do feel relief. I don't feel the joy. Speak to everyone listening and watching right now that has a dream, that has a side hustle, that has an entrepreneurial business. Maybe they're perhaps just full-time employees in a company. They're an intrapreneur inside a bigger company, and you want them to feel joy, not relief, when they accomplish a goal. How did you cross that bridge from relief to finding joy?
Yeah, I was in a long stretch of burnout, self-imposed burnout, and I talk a lot about work addiction and busyness addiction, which are like other forms of addiction where they almost numb us and separate us from ourselves. I talk about realizing I was doing a lot of it wrong. I talk about how I don't believe I needed to do 100-hour weeks for 10 years to build a billion-dollar company. But my journey was after 3 years of hundreds and hundreds of no's, when we finally started getting success, I almost for a while couldn't believe it, right? Part of my journey is learning to believe I'm worthy of my own success, of being in my own skin, of being in my own body, of all of those things. I talk a lot in the book about self-doubt, body doubt, God doubt, all of that stuff. Because I think leadership starts on the inside. And I realized, Scott, that, because I had heard no for so long, when we started getting yeses and all this momentum was happening and we started winning awards everywhere and getting into all these big beauty stores. And, when we hit #1 on QVC, I always felt like, oh my gosh, I've got to strike while the iron's hot. This might all come crashing down at any moment, God forbid. Like I would have those thoughts, which are a form of imposter syndrome of, am I worthy of this success? Do I deserve this? Am I qualified to have it, right? And I had to really go through this emotional journey that I talk about and believe it. Even once we were acquired by L'Oreal, it was the largest acquisition in their US history, and they made me the first woman to hold a CEO title of a brand in their 100+ year history. And I remember being in that position and in that room and in that space and needing to summon the belief that I was qualified for that. I talk about the deep stuff in this book that a lot of times CEOs and leaders are embarrassed to talk about because we always have to show up as the leader for our teams, right? Sometimes we always have to show up as the leader for our own families. We have to show up this way because we're the leader. But what about all the real stuff we're dealing with? And I think part of really why I wanted to write this book is to really share those real stories behind the stories of the things I failed at and did wrong, wish I had done differently. And also the greatest things I did and the lessons I learned the hard way that hopefully will save other people time and money and and have stronger teams and save themselves crying themselves to sleep at night. But there's some stuff I did wrong that I talk about. And one of those things is I never felt the victories during a long season of a number of years because I was just driving so hard, almost in survival mode,
to build the business and living in burnout. And, I talk about, for anyone who started a business with a friend or family member or their partner, I talk about the real hard stuff there too, because, I got to the point, Scott, where it was another goal hit, another show hit, finally a yes from this retailer, hiring, building, and just driving so hard. And my husband and I both were in parallel trying to start a family. So in parallel to all this, I was going through like fertility treatments and miscarriages and all kinds of stuff, which I talk about that personal journey for the first time ever, because that would be going on. But then as leaders, when those hard things are going on internally, you still have to show up and lead and inspire your teams.
How did you get over that? And how do you help women to go, no, like, don't do that to yourself. Like, you do have something, especially in the face of so much rejection, and you kept going. It seems superhuman.
The thing that I love is that you're talking about this, right? Imposter syndrome and all of that. And I talk about a lot of, stories pertaining to that in the book as well. The very first thing that is so important for everybody listening right now is like, literally everybody has it. I've never met a person who doesn't have it. Everybody has it, right? And so it's like, okay, that's the first thing. Because once we know that, we're like, oh, this person I watch on television every day has it. Oh, like everybody has it. And that, right, just wrapping our heads around that is really empowering, because it's like, okay, I'm not alone in this. It's normal. I feel unqualified. I feel all those things, right? Everybody has it. The second thing is, I do a lot of things when I start to feel it. Like I've built this, I talk about a little bit about this in the book, where I built kind of this own imaginary toolbox that I pull from when I catch myself going there. You know what I mean? And there's things I tell myself. One of them is, I'm trying to remember this part isn't in the book, but I'm just going to share it. I feel like it was Steve Jobs. I don't remember who said this, but one person shared this quote that was so powerful, and it's always stuck with me. They basically said, every single thing that's ever been built or created or done in the world was created by someone just like you and me. And when you think about it, it's true. It's all true. And I think about that. I write so many things. For me, when you see my circle of friends, they're all different faiths. Some of them have no faith. but their hearts are huge, right? So I love having powerful people around me that remind me of who I am and help talk me out of my BS when I start, like, oh, I don't know if I can do. But for me also, I keep a lot of empowering statements around me that I pull from. And, one of them that's huge for me, because faith is a big deal to me, although I think this applies to anybody, no matter what their faith. But, there's a famous saying that really fills my soul when I start to feel imposter syndrome or doubt myself or feel like I don't have what it takes or like I'm not qualified, right? How many times do we feel like we're not qualified? And these famous words say, God doesn't call the qualified, he qualifies the called. And for me, I feel like when we have a knowing in our gut, right? And we can't shake it, right? I feel like that's part of your calling or your purpose in life. And I think we can have multiple of those. But when you have it, for me, I kept feeling this calling, like I was supposed to create this dream, launch this dream, and I was supposed to do whatever I can to shift culture in the beauty industry. I just kept feeling it. And during all these years of no's, because when we finally created this product, and by the way, I just thought, as an entrepreneur, like so many people will relate to this. You're like, okay, this product is amazing. Finally, yes, it's just going to do well, right? Oh my gosh. The first 3 years, I couldn't even afford to pay myself, right? And every retailer we sent the product to either said no or never replied. Every meeting I got in person when I thought I was going to crush it and kill it. I remember this first big Sephora meeting I had, and I literally left the building going down the elevator, walking as fast as I could to get out the door. This is in downtown San Francisco. And I could barely afford the plane ticket to get there. And it was a big no. And I was so devastated. I was trying, because the elevator ride down from this big no was filled with people that I'm guessing worked at Sephora. And I'm like, I'm a CEO. I cannot cry. I cannot cry. I've got to hold my shit together. I've got to make it. And I remember getting out of the elevator, rushing out the side of the building on Market Street and like pushing myself against this brick wall next to a fast food restaurant and just sobbing as hard as I could. It was no after no. QVC, I remember years of no. And I finally got the head guy, Alan Burke, who is responsible for building this $1 billion empire on QVC. And he got all these luxury brands from department stores to want to sell on QVC, and they still do. And he's just a genius. And I remember finally getting him on the phone. And I remember pacing in the office, like so nervous because I needed a yes. And well, I should say pacing in our office, AKA the living room, because right. And he got on the phone and he's like, we've reviewed your products with all of our buyers. It's unanimous. You're not the right fit for QVC or for our customers. And I was so devastated because with my mission of wanting to shift culture around beauty, I just knew, oh my gosh, if I can get on QVC, it's not like a Photoshop magazine. It is live. It is live television to 100 million homes. And I could prove how my product works live. And I could show models of that represented every different type of and size and age and skin color and skin tone. And I just knew in my gut, right? I knew in my gut when we check in with our purpose, with our calling, with our mission, I knew that I was supposed to be on QVC. And to finally get this big call from the head of all of it, Alan Burke, telling me I'm not the right fit and we're not the right fit for QVC or their customers. It's devastating when people tell you you're not the right fit. And when people that you are so tempted to put on a pedestal because they're experts and they've created incredible things and they're known as visionaries. When touted visionaries are telling you one thing and your gut is telling you another, it's hard to keep going. It's also hard to feel like, well, wait, what if my gut is wrong? And what if I'm not enough? And what if I'm, like he said, not the right fit? And what if I'm not qualified? And here's the thing is, fast forward, a long time later, when we finally got one shot on QVC, we finally got a yes from a buyer, not from Alan Burke. We finally got a yes, and we got one shot, which came down to 10 minutes. And we would I knew, and here's the thing, Kathy, is at the time, and this was a little over 3 years into our business. So at the time, we were still selling like 2 to 3 orders a day on our website, barely keeping the lights on. And QVC needed us to manufacture, pay for, and ship in over 6,000 units of our Bye Bye Under Eye Concealer in order to sell in a 10-minute window to hit their sales target or not come back. And the biggest thing that was on the line was that in beauty, it was a consignment deal, which meant we had to pay for all of it, make it, ship it in, and we only got paid for what sold. So and as an entrepreneur, you know this, everyone listening knows this, like never take a purchase order you can't afford to lose. But in this case, we had nothing. This was our last chance at like not going out of business. And it was a big yes. And we decided to kind of risk it all. We applied for SBA loans to cover the cost of making the 6,000 units. 22 banks said no. It was bank number 23. They gave us enough money just to cover the purchase order in an SBA loan. So we had one shot on QVC and we had to sell, right? We had to hit their sales target, dollars per minute and not come back. When we got the one shot, I flew out there. I was there a week before. I went out a week before this airing and I sat in a rental car in the parking lot right out front every day. And I just sat there because it felt so heavy and so big. And I remembered, you talk about Oprah, actually. By the way, Oprah was the very first person to read the book cover to cover because I wanted her blessing on the parts I included about her. Otherwise, I would have never included. Of course,
you had that
stories.
Epic piece of this whole puzzle. My God.
It's a crazy story. And I got her blessing at the very end of the book. I shared, okay, when you talk about I've never, not to be off track, but I've never shared all the real story behind the story of everything. So this book is the first time, including all the personal stuff. But anyhow, I sat in that parking lot staring at the front door of QVC, and I remembered this Oprah episode where she talked about the color purple and how she was so obsessed with it that it felt like it was too much for her to carry anymore because she wanted it so bad. And someone had told her, oh, real actresses are up for the part. And right. And so she told the story of just going to a retreat where she was running the track in circles and singing I Surrender All and asking God to take it from her. And then Steven Spielberg called. And anyways, so I remembered this episode. Anyone who's seen that episode will remember, but I literally channeled that. I'm sitting in this car in the parking lot. I started singing I Surrender All because it felt too heavy for me to carry. It felt like the next time I walk through these doors at QVC, I'm either going to walk back out of business or with my whole life changed. It was one or the other because we had one shot. And if you do not hit the sales goal, you don't come back. And the hardest thing, and I talk a lot about learning how to tune in and trust our own gut and trust ourselves, even when everyone else is saying something different. And this was probably the biggest lesson I've ever learned in my career and life was in this moment as it pertains to trusting my gut, because we had one shot. And what we did is we hired these third-party consultants, and they helped so many people sell their products so well on television and other channels as well. And when we met with them, they all said the same thing to me, which is, okay, if you want a chance at doing well, here's what you need to do. You need to use these type of models, which were just like the ones I had seen in magazines for years. And, you need to produce yourself this way. And I would say to them, okay, but but what if I'm sitting at home and I have rosacea? Exactly. And what if I'm, 75 years old and I have hyperpigmentation? How is anyone going to know this product works for them if they don't see someone using it who looks like them? And, we would fight about it. And these experts wanted the best for me. They wanted me to win, but they were just telling me what they knew. Right. And this is so important, is so many times experts, visionaries, etc., you can never take it personally when they don't believe in your dream or think you have what it takes, because no matter how visionary they are, typically they still only will believe something will be successful if they've already seen it successful before. So if you're doing something new or novel or different, or you're going to put your own take on it, they're not going to realize they're doing this, but they're likely not going to think it's going to work because subconsciously they've never seen it work before. And so I'm sitting there knowing I have one shot on TV and knowing the experts are telling me use these type of models. And yet my gut instinct, my why, my authenticity, right? My authentic reason for launching this business is to not use that type of, to use every type of model, right? And it's really hard in these decisions in life when your experts are telling you one thing, your gut's telling you another. And we had one shot. And I just remember this moment sitting in that car, singing I Surrender All, crying. And I just remember thinking of, who is this woman that's going to be watching me? If I have the blessing of her spending her precious time turning her television on and seeing me, I'm not going to waste it. I'm not even going to focus on, let me sell as much as I can. What do I want to stand for? And I just remember having this moment hit me where I imagine so many different types of women. And one of them that always stands out in my head when I think back to this memory is I imagine a single mom folding laundry in Nebraska who literally doesn't even have time to remember that she matters and that she's beautiful. And I would rather have her look up on her TV and even not buy anything and see me showing women that look like her and stand for that than sell a shitload of product and stand for nothing. And I knew what I had to do, but sometimes when we know what we have to do, it doesn't mean it's easy. And when so the live show happened and the countdown clock at 10 minutes started, and it was 9:59, 9:58, 9:50. And I'm like, oh shit. But you can't try to sell and you can't look freaked out, or nothing will sell either. And I just remember literally pouring everything I had on the air. And I remember the moment my bare face came up on national television, my bright red cheeks. And I remember going to all the different models that looked like, real people. And I'll never forget, it was I was shaking like a leaf. Oh my gosh. And then the whole cell, because everything was on the line. And then I remember like right toward the end, the host was like, the deep shade is down to 200. The tan shade is almost, and I was like,
what?
oh shit. Oh. And then I remember all of a sudden at the 10-minute mark, the sold out sign came up, and I literally like tears like streamed down my face. I remember my husband like rushed through the double doors of the studio, and I looked at him, and they cut the live show, and boom, they're on to the next sell of the next product. I looked at him and I'm like sobbing, and I'm like, real women have spoken. And he's like, we're not going bankrupt. And it was like this whole like thing. And that one show turned into 5 that year, 101 the next year, 151 the next year. And then we've done 250 live shows a year on QVC for 8 years in a row, and built the largest beauty brand in QVC's history. It is right now at this moment to this day. And the only reason I share that is for every person listening. It was 3 years of no from QVC. It was Alan Burke saying, you are not the right fit for our customers or for QVC. And we finally did get a shot. And so 2 things about that. And by the way, oh my gosh. So by the way, okay, I love, for everyone listening, like literally no one can tell you are not the right fit, right? Like nobody can tell you that. And I feel in life, our own calling is always stronger than any opposition. Sometimes it feels like our opposition is huge, but your opposition cannot compete with your calling. And what it comes down to is which one you decide to listen to, right?
So good.
And like, so this part, so fast forward, we're on QVC now, doing really, really well. And Alan Burke ends up, I get to know him. He's freaking a genius. He became our biggest champion, our biggest cheerleader. He's to this day right now one of my closest mentors in my life. So awesome. And then he retired from QVC after like a million years there. I don't know how many decades, but he retired. And we ended up hiring him on our advisory board in a paid position. And it was this moment where I realized, Kathy, like, oh, the guy who rejected me is now working for me.
Yeah,
right?
cool.
And it was like, oh my gosh, like nobody can tell you how big your dream can be. No one can tell you you're not the right fit. And here's the last thing I'll say about this. I didn't take it personally when he said no, right?
Mm-hmm.
I've gotten a lot of rejections. You know, I talk about the investor who told me they wouldn't invest in someone because they wouldn't invest in our company because they didn't think women would buy makeup from someone who looked like me with my body and weight. Like I've had every type of rejection, and it's so easy for us because we're human to take these personally, right? And it wasn't that I wasn't hurt. It wasn't any of that. But professionally, I always made sure to not take it personally. I always made sure to treat it always as like, oh, this will be a yes one day. And then I'll decide if I want to partner with them, but it will be a yes. And I always had that attitude. And so with Alan, even after that tough no happened, Alan Burke at QVC, I still nurtured that relationship. And I still said, it's going to be a yes one day and all those things. And here's what I'll say, you guys, is, you know, I believe, and you, for everyone, it's different. For some people, it's God. For some people, it's a universe. For some people, it's love. I believe in perfect timing, even when it doesn't feel so perfect to us. And what I'll say about that is like, what I learned many years later is had Alan Burke said yes when I wanted him to, we would have failed miserably because I didn't know what I didn't know. And we were not operationally sophisticated enough to handle the back end of the business of an account the size of QVC. I just didn't know it. And sometimes our hardest no's in life are actually like serendipitous grace.
Yeah,
like
totally.
Wrapped in this package labeled painful rejection.
Yep.
And anyways, it was a big thing.
God.
Oh, one more thing. Sorry, I'm like live off the cuff with you, and I love it so much. But you asked something, and I just realized I forgot to answer it. Yeah. No, but you asked for people that think their idea has already been done, or they asked for, right? One thing I want to share about that, I'm getting hyper right now because this is like, oh my gosh, so I talk about this lesson so much in the book because I wish I had learned this earlier. I wish I would have saved myself so many nights crying myself to sleep. If so many people talk themselves out of their dream, they talk themselves out of their truth because exactly what you said, they're like, oh, well, oh, that person's doing so well with this idea already on social media, and this person did really well, and this person, oh no, here's the deal. Nobody, I don't even care how many, there was millions of makeup brands out there when we launched a makeup company. Please don't ever think that because your idea has already been done, that it impacts your ability to do it and succeed. It just doesn't. And when you look at all of the researchers that research authenticity and all of that, they talk about how it's impossible to have an authentic connection with another human being, a real connection, unless you show up authentically, right? If you show up as your representative or who you think the person wants you to be or whatever, you'll never have an authentic connection, which also can mean with your customers, because your customers are a relationship too, right? And with that said, as long as you show up fully, authentically who you are, it doesn't matter your idea's already been done. No one can do it the way you're going to do it. Like nobody can share it, express it, communicate it, create it the way you're going to do it. And so it's literally, as long as you're authentic and that through line of authenticity is in you, it's impossible for anyone else to have done your idea because they can't do it like you. It's impossible. And I just think that is so important. And I'll also say that after, because I've done now over 1,000 live shows on QVC myself. And the one thing that happens is you're there all hours of the day and night, because you might have a show at 3 a.m. or 3 p.m. The fun part of it, and it's hard, the hours were very hard. I did it for 8 years. I spent almost every holiday in the QVC green room and all those things, which it was the biggest blessing. It allowed people to become aware of It Cosmetics, and we couldn't afford advertising at the time or anything. So it was the biggest gift. But one of the things that I loved most about it was that in the green room, even when you're stressed out in the green room at QVC, you get to meet so many other founders of companies, right? And you all end up bonding and all the things, the good, the bad. So not everyone's nice, but you meet a lot of people. And the through line talking about authenticity is when I look back at doing over 1,000 shows on QVC, one commonality between the people who make it and the people who don't, because most people go to QVC and they're on air one time, a couple times, and they're gone, right? And when I go, why is it some people make it and some people don't? It's never their personality type. It's actually, I wish I could say it was, but it's never even if they're nice. It's like, the one thing that I saw is the people who are the same on air, the people who are the same on air as they are off air, they're the people who last, right? Sometimes they're quirky and they're this and they're that and they're wild and you're like, they're crazy. And then they're that same way on air selling their product. They last because you can't fake authenticity. And viewers are smart, customers are smart, and they sense it, and they can't connect with you unless you're the same. Your heart is open and you're the freaking same. And the people that are even really great, awesome people, like good hearts in the green room, then they go on air and they're all of a sudden the professional representative that they think they're supposed to be, or they're really cool and funky because they think they're supposed to be, but that's not really who they are. They never last. And I feel like when people get this, it's freedom in so many ways, because it's so easy, especially in a social media world, to get distracted and compare ourselves and go, oh, this is working for so-and-so. Maybe I should do more of that. It's like, oh no, that's when you start to chip away at your own secret sauce and your own potential.
So I definitely want to talk about some of the myths and the lies that we tell ourselves, but let's go into before, because you really primed the three things. Why don't we talk about those three things quickly so it's on people's radar?
Yeah. And if they know, like, well, wait, is this really for them? Because to your point, like, self-confidence is so important. I see self-confidence almost as like this house we're building with all the rooms and the achievements and the new art on the wall and this beautiful, masterful house, which is important. But our self-worth is the foundation beneath all of it. And if our foundation has cracks in it, like, our house will only ever be as strong and as fulfilled as that foundation. So self-worth, it challenges. And by the way, let me preface this by saying most people with self-worth issues can often be crushing it on the outside and everything looks like it's going so well and they're winning in their business and in their jobs and this and that. But here's how self-worth issues show up in three ways. And it's universal, no matter how much of the world's definition of success you have. So if you have low to medium self-worth, it can often look like you're stuck and you don't know why. And you might be like, oh, my business is at 6 figures, but I don't know why I can't get to 7. Or I have this big idea to run a company or launch my own thing, but I don't know why I'm not going for it. Or I want a life partner, but I'm just not getting on the dating app or putting myself out there. And a lot of people feel stuck. They don't know why. And they think, I just need to get more skills. And that's important and might be true. Or I need to get more experience, and that might be true. A lot of times, though, people are stuck because deep down inside, they don't actually believe they're worthy of the thing. They don't believe they're worthy of a loving relationship, or they don't believe they're worthy of actually going from having an idea inside of them to launching the business. And it becomes a deep rooted self-worth issue of why we're stuck. Because to what you shared, we don't rise to what we believe is possible. We fall to what we believe we're worthy of. And then low to medium, when you're low to medium self-worth, what that often looks like is medium level self-worth is that you'll go for the thing, you'll put yourself out there, but you hit a ceiling, like your self-worth is your ceiling, or you sabotage it along the way, right? You write the whole manuscript and then you don't know why you're not sending it out to publishers and instead scrolling Instagram for 8 hours a day. Or you meet a great partner and you just somehow are just not attracted to them and you put them in the friend zone. And you don't know why you're sabotaging different things. And a lot of people do this. They can be crushing it in their business, doing all these things, but they're sabotaging personal relationships or fitness goals. And that's what medium self-worth looks like. It looks like we'll hit a ceiling, or we'll sabotage the thing. And then medium to high self-worth, which a lot of achievers fall into this. That looks like you'll go for the thing, you'll actually achieve it and arrive at it, but you won't feel fulfilled, and you feel like something's missing and like it's never, ever enough, and that you're never enough. And so the big breakthrough here, I think, is that for a lot of us, for me, for decades, I just thought solving that with more achievement or things that built more confidence would finally make me feel enough, not realizing confidence is fragile. It's based on the external. And what I really needed is self-worth. And to your point, building self-worth is really about unlearning a lot of the lies that lead to self-doubt and igniting those truths that wake up worthiness. So that's why I wrote Worthy.
Yeah.
I wrote Worthy if you have some self-doubt to destroy and a destiny to fulfill.
Yes. Is there a lie that you want to highlight? I mean, obviously everyone's listening, they're going to go and be inspired to get the book. Is there a lie that you want to unravel for people and point out so they could be sensitive to it? And I'm sure there are a number of lies that we tell ourselves that lead to self-doubt, and what the truth would be to embrace, to be able to wake up to own that worthiness.
Yeah. I mean, just cracking open Worthy for a minute and just to some of these lies, if I'm me, I won't be loved. I'm the real me. I'm an imposter. That is a big one. Right now, as we're talking, 73% of men feel inadequate and not enough. 80% of women feel like they're not enough. 75% of female executives deal with imposter syndrome. It is a big, big issue. Another lie, labels are permanent. A lot of us have let labels, oh my gosh, your story is so powerful around this, about how to not let things other people say about us stick to us. And there's a whole exercise and framework in the book about how to unlearn and remove labels. Almost like a lot of us think labels are permanent, and we let them stick to us like permanent things, but they're really like Post-it notes. You can remove them like a light adhesive, and you can, apply new labels to your life. If I stand out, I'll get kicked out. A lot of us are afraid of our greatness, and we dim our light and show up inauthentically to belong. There's another whole chapter in here about people pleasing, right? Which 40% of men describe themselves as people pleasers, over 50% of women do.
Wow.
And so many people, but like we feel we need to please others in order to be accepted or love or belong. But oftentimes it comes as a result of us betraying ourselves. And every time we show up inauthentically in this world, we are telling ourselves that who we are isn't enough.
Mm.
And so I guess if I were to pick one lie, this will be really hard. You and I actually recently dove deep into rejection and reframing rejection. There's a whole masterclass in here in Worthy, the book about how to change your relationship with rejection to change your life. But in our time, I would say I hope and pray everyone listening to us, and this is something I love so much about you, Jim, is when you step into the power of owning who you authentically are and like all of who you are, that is when you live in alignment with your assignment on this earth. And there's a whole chapter called You're Not Crazy, You're Just First. And what what I love about this chapter is for anybody listening to us who has ever felt like who they are is not enough, or like perhaps if they were the real them, then maybe people would be like, oh, they're not as cool or funny or smart or competent as I thought they were. Or if anyone has ever felt odd or quirky or strange or different, uh, this whole chapter called You're Not Crazy, You're Just First is one of my favorites for that, because I share how growing up, I was adopted and raised by 5 different families and loved them all. I'm so blessed beyond measure. And what I will say is I was the only one out of all 5 of my families that would have these kind of out there ideas like, what if we could end world hunger? What if I could launch a business one day? What if I could become a CEO one day? Right. And I had these just big ideas that were not normal for the families and environments I was raised around. And they'd always call me terms of endearment. They thought like, you're crazy. You're crazy. Like who do you think you are to have ideas like this? And I remember after many years of always kind of feeling like I needed to kind of dim my own light or change who I was to fit in. I was actually the first person in any of my families to go to therapy in my late 20s. And I remember asking my therapist, I said, my whole life, like people who love me, they're like, you have these wild ideas, all these things, like you're crazy. These terms of endearment. I asked the therapist, I said, am I crazy? And she said, you're not crazy, but I'm really glad you're here. And she explained to me that when you're the first in your peer group or family or friends to kind of think different or be willing to show up as who you fully authentically are, not everyone's going to get it right away, because there's only one of you that has ever been created, ever. And and this is for everyone listening to us right now, if you are one of the brave ones willing to show up authentically as who you truly are in this world, you're first. You're the first
Yes.
ever you. There's never been another you before, right? There's no one else with your unique fingerprints or heartbeat or your unique tongue print or your unique iris of your eyes or the experiences you've had in life or the emotions you feel the way you feel them or the way you see art and beauty and the world. And there's never been another you. And so whether you approach your business authentically or anything else, don't be surprised if not everyone gets it right away, because they've never seen another you before. And when I launched my company, It Cosmetics, and grew it to $1 billion company, right, over many, many years, the first many years were met with all this rejection and people not thinking it's going to work. And also, I was entering a crowded space. A lot of people tell themselves the lie. This is one of the lies in the book Worthy, that my idea's already been done and I have nothing special to offer. Jim, I do not care how I entered a makeup industry where there's tens of
It's
thousands of makeup
one of the
companies.
most competitive industries out there.
Yeah, it's already been done. But guess what? I don't care what industry anyone listening is in or anything. If you or what product you're going to launch or what idea you're going to put out there that you think, well, maybe someone else has already done it better. If you are actually willing to do it authentically to you, by definition, it has never been done before, ever. And that's the secret sauce. And so I remember the moment when my therapist had shared all this with me, and I had this moment that was like a light bulb went off in my brain, so bright that it burst, where I was like, I'm not crazy. I'm just first. I'm just first.
And I remember that every time I got told no, growing my business, every time I thought, I really believe in this vision that this product can really help people one day. And I'd be told, oh, that's never going to work. And I just would remember thinking, I'm not crazy, I'm just first. Or when I walk in a room and for whatever reason, maybe don't feel like I fit in, I'm like, I'll tell myself, it's okay. I'm just the first me. Eventually they'll love me. And this is a lie we tell ourselves, that if I am who I am, it's somehow not enough. And if I'm the real me, I won't be loved. And every time we show up inauthentically, which, by the way, Jim, it's impossible to have another connection, a true connection with another human being, whether it's a friend, a partner, our customers, unless you actually show up fully authentically. And so that is your power. That's your genius zone. And anytime you show up inauthentically as someone you think people want you to be, you're chipping away at your self-worth and telling yourself that who you are is not worthy. And so unlearning this lie, woo, when you tell yourself, I'm not crazy, I'm just first, it is powerful. It feels like joy. It tastes like freedom.
When you look at studies, 75% of women right now deal with imposter syndrome.
Yeah.
It's such a thing. And you've shared how going from ESPN to the third co-anchor of Good Morning America, that you had some of those feelings of imposter syndrome. And how did you handle that? And how did you break through that?
What I remember when I was talking with Michelle Obama, her book Becoming, and I read where this beautiful, talented woman with 2 Ivy League degrees, former First Lady of the United States, she had the imposter syndrome. She had that feeling. We all do. I don't care who we are. I don't, so please, I don't care at what level you are as a woman. I don't know, just because it's fed to us at a young age. So how did I get through it? Time, my friend. I'm different now than I was when I was younger, and dealing with the feelings that I had. So a lot of it had to do with just being patient and persistent, hearing that inner voice and realizing the things that I was saying about myself, I would never say to you, Jamie. I would never say to a stranger. So why was I saying it to myself? And just being aware and cognizant of that. But it's a little bit easier now that I'm in this season of my life than it was when I was younger. I'm so grateful that my 2 older sisters and my mother were great sounding boards, and I know this as women, it's like I'm not looking for an answer. Sometimes when I talk to someone, I just want you to hear me. May not be a solution. It's okay. Especially when we talk to men. Men are like, I'll fix it. And I'm like, I don't want it to be fixed. Just let me just tell you how. Just listen. Just listen to what I'm going through. And so I'm just grateful that I've recognized the different stages. But back then, what got me through it, especially when I was sitting next to Diane, who was a dear friend, and Charlie Gibson, I was so grateful to someone like Diane, who was a mentor, who really helped me and would kind of like put me under her wing and tell me it was going to be okay.
Do you now ever feel unworthy?
Woo! My mission is to be a messenger. You know how I used to think that I want to be a sports anchor, and that's my passion and that's my purpose. And boy, has it led me to my true purpose. It's kind of like what we were talking about earlier when we were walking, and what brought you joy as a child and what you want to do in the season that you're in your life right now, your speaking that you're doing, the books that you're writing. And it's just that feeling of knowing I'm supposed to be a messenger of hope, that I'm supposed to let people know that this too shall pass. And I think I'm a walking, breathing symbol of that. And there's something to be said of now feeling, when I have those moments of feeling unworthy, those moments of that come from time to time, it's getting quiet. And I remember something my mom would say, I can have a bad day, and sometimes when I do. And I remember when I would call her and say, Mom, I'm having a horrible day. Nothing is going right, and I'm feeling unworthy or whatever. And she, oh honey, oh honey, oh honey, where are you right now? I'm at home. Okay, go to bed in the day. If you're having a bad day, why are you staying up in the day? Because you know what? Tomorrow is going to be a brighter day. You are going to be, and it's so true. How many times have you felt at the end of the day, or for whatever, like you're just having that kind of day, and you go to bed, you wake up, the sun is shining, and you're just thinking, oh, I can do it. And so that's what when I feel those moments of unworthiness that creep in, I just let it. It's kind of like what you were alluding to earlier, how I was about fear, and when you address it, it runs away. It's like a little kid, when you have two kids, mommy, 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 and they're like pulling at you, mommy, 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 and you look at you go, what? And they look at you like nothing. I don't want anything. They were just wanting your attention. And that's how I feel, that those feelings of unworthiness and fear. It's like, hey, 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 and I go like, what you want? Oh, you oh no, I didn't want anything. I just wanted you to know I was here. I'm like, okay, run along.
I love too. It's like so often we can give what we need in order to get it. And like you sharing you're feeling unworthy, and then you go and you help someone else feel, you remind her that she's, remind them that they're worthy. And it's like, that's kind of the quickest also solution to it, which I think is so powerful. And by the way, brighter by the day, talking about going to bed, because tomorrow's a new day as well. And what you just shared about your mom's advice. It's funny. I've been very recently actually trying to live that advice. And even with my husband, with little things like you get a negative email that just wants to take you down. You're like, what? That, all those things. And we started a new thing where we wait till the next day to reply. Because so
Smart.
often,
I know.
So often the reply is or a text message where you're like, what? That so often like everything changes that next day.
What's so exciting about this is like you make history. You make history with the Today Show, right? Biggest job you can get in this industry. And I'm thinking about the person listening to this right now, watching us right now, that may not know that when you entered this profession, 27 stations rejected you. Will you share this? Because so many, Hoda, so many times, I know you and I have this in common. We've gone through so many rejections. And I think like, oh my gosh, I almost could have doubted myself out of my own destiny. And for the person who's just like gotten their heart broken or gotten another reject or sent their manuscript out and no publisher liked it, or, they think like, oh, my days have passed, my ship has sailed. Will you share 27 rejections and look at you now?
That's why we connect. That's why we connect, because we both know the feeling of not one person who believes, and you wonder, not one person outside of our families who believed. When I graduated college, I was sure I was getting a job with nothing other than my mom was a constant cheerleader. So I just assumed I was kind of good. So I was like, I still remember it. I was like, Mom, I'm going to borrow your car and I'm going to go to Richmond and I'm going to go get that job at this station. Okay, you got it, girl. My mom's from Egypt, and she believed like I was the queen. And I still remember I drove to Richmond dressed and had the whole bit. And the news director quickly saw my tape and said, no, I'm sorry. You're not ready for Richmond, but good luck. And I was like, I'm not ready? He's like, no, you're not ready. Go, is there something wrong with my tape? He goes, yeah, you're not good. You're green and you don't have it. But you need lots of at work. So bye-bye. Bye. I was like, bye-bye. I still remember walking out. And he goes, oh, whoa, wait. My buddy in Roanoke, he's hiring people. Smaller station than here. And he's a few hours. He's like 3 hours from here. Why don't you drive there? So I was like, okay, Roanoke? Okay. I still remember I called my mom. How was Richmond? I go, I don't want Richmond. Ma, I'm going to Roanoke because I'm getting that job. You got it. You can do it. And I still remember driving to Roanoke, and I was like, I remember walking into the newsroom. I'm like, okay, this isn't as great, but I'll work here for sure. News director pops a tape in, watches it, stops it. He looks at me and he goes, oh, you are so not ready for Roanoke. And I'm like, who's not ready for Roanoke? I didn't even know where the bar was, but apparently I was way below it. He goes, oh, you're green and you're not that good, but I want to wish you good luck. You know, I think you might have a shot somewhere down the road, just not here. And I kept trying to figure out what's wrong with this horrible tape I'm showing. And he goes, see you later. And he goes, oh, whoa, whoa, whoa. He goes, before you go, I got a buddy in Memphis. He's hiring and you may be what he's looking for, blah, blah, blah. And I drove to Memphis. I drove across the great state of Tennessee. He had a small window to see me. I drove all night. I rolled up on this guy, Ray Pullman, who was a great guy. And he took my tape and he watched it and he said, no, you're not ready for here either. And I was like, and he goes, but I got a buddy. And I just kept driving. And I was wondering, as these rejections kept coming, sometimes 3 in one city, Birmingham was ABC, NBC, CBS, Dothan, Alabama, which is a map dot. And I was like, oh, wow, they have TV here. And the guy quickly looked at my tape and said, you are so not ready for Dothan, Alabama. I was like, oh, God, it's over. And as I was driving and getting rejected, I used to play high school basketball, so I always believed that somewhere, somehow, like someone's going to pull it out. Like there's a 3-pointer in your back pocket. Like you might hit it. So keep going because you don't know.
Go.
Second to go. It's all you need. Just like one. And I kept driving and getting rejected. And after the 27th one, I was depleted and depressed. And my mom was like ready for me to come home and bring her back her car so she could get to work on time. And I remembered thinking, they were right. I was roommates with the homecoming queen, who was also really smart and in journalism. And she was the one who was going to make it, not me. And that's kind of what I felt throughout much of that time. And that professor who said to me, I'm going to save you some time because they only take certain people in that industry. And I think that you could be well suited for print or PR, a lot of things, but I just don't think that's your lane. And all those naysayers came rushing back. And so I was thinking to myself, yep, okay. So now what am I doing? PR? I don't even want PR. Like I was into news. I liked all that stuff. And as I was driving home, depressed and playing James Taylor, and because that's what I did, I was like, this is the worst, fire and rain, crank it up and continue driving home. And I remember I was lost because by then I was just driving aimlessly. And there was a physical sign that said, CBS, our eye is on you, Greenville, New Center 15. I was like, New Center 15? Okay, let me go get that rejection. I need a map. I don't have a map. And that was when you needed a map. And so I went in there and I'll never forget this guy. He was 5 feet tall. He's like, hey, girl. I was like, hey, I'm the news director. I'm like, hi. He goes, I was sports director. And then Joe Macione promoted me to news director. I was like, oh my God, you're the news director. This is amazing. Anyway, here's the worst tape in history is what my eyes were saying. And he took that tape, and I still remember it. And I'm looking at this short guy taking my tape, sticking it in the machine. And I just practically have my hand out, like, give me that thing back so I can just, and he just kept watching it. And Jamie, I watched him watch that tape. And all of a sudden, like blood was pumping, my heart was pounding. I'm like, oh my gosh, this man is watching this horrible tape. He went past the part where everyone ejected it, me with standing in front of the Tridell house or whatever it was, so bad. And all of a sudden, he stops that tape and he looks at me and he goes, he was calling me Hilda when I walked in, but I didn't even correct him because, what's your name, Hilda? All right, come on, girl. I was like, it doesn't matter, just call me. And he goes, Hilda? And I go, yeah. He goes, I like what I see. I was like, I burst out into tears. That man single-handedly changed the course of my life in that 1 minute. Well, you're not going to work in Greenville because this is the big city. You're going to work in Greenwood, okay? And you need your own car. You got a car? I was like, I'll get one. He goes, and you're going to be driving around. And you're going to carry a scanner and sleep with it. You're going to get every fire, every shooting, I was like, I got it. Can you edit? I was like, yes. I mean, all the things I couldn't do. But that man did it. So it reminded me that you don't need 27 people to love you. You just need to find one. And there's always one. You found your one. You found your one. That one moment on QVC, those 10 minutes, you found it.
Yeah.
You found your sweet spot. And I think the trouble is we often quit before it comes. And then what? Like, what would have happened? Sliding doors. If I had not seen that sign, then what? I would be working in PR? Maybe. Would I be happy? I don't know. But I wouldn't have had this life. And I feel like sometimes, like you're wondering, like, when are my blessings coming? And I think weirdly, sometimes your blessings come on the other side of the jump. They're waiting for you there. They're not coming here. Why are you sitting here? They're not coming to you while you're sitting here. Your blessings are over there. Until you risk it and take the jump, then they'll come. But if you stay safe here and ask over and over, when's it my turn? When are my things coming? Well, you have to risk too. And I feel like that's something that showed me. Like, you jump and risk. My blessing was waiting at Stan Sandroni's door. I didn't know it.
Yeah.
You know, you just don't know when it's coming.
You know, with QVC, they rejected me for years and I still kept going. And so in my case too, it was like finally getting the yes and trusting my knowing that I was supposed to keep going, even when everyone was saying no. And I'm just thinking about the person listening and watching us right now who maybe they're on their 27th heartbreak. Their 27th person cheated on them again. Their 27th betrayal, the 27th, you know, manuscript rejection, or the 27th time they stopped themselves from even trying. And I just, when you're driving past that sign, you just had 27 other rejections. Your mom needs her car back.
A million reasons to go home.
A million reasons to go home. Did you have like kind of like a whisper inside? Like, okay, I'm supposed to stop, or I'm going to try again? Or what made you stop versus just being like, you know what? Like, you know.
I don't know what made me stop. I think I was truly and honestly depleted, and I think it was like a Hail Mary. I think I looked at it and I was like, last one. Last. And I did say to myself, like, if this is the 28th, I mean, look, how many signs do you need, man, before you're like, okay? Because I'm sure you've asked yourself that too. When are you being shown that you're supposed to reverse course or change course, or when are you supposed to keep pounding the brick wall? But I think if you find yourself in the same relationship, job type, whatever it is, and why does this keep happening to me? I think that does raise a lot of questions. Like, there's something there that needs to be kind of sorted out inside, I think.
You know, Hoda, I used to care so much what people thought. And if their words would stick and take root, like if we're in your situation and so many people over and over, you don't have what it takes, you don't have what it takes. For decades of my life, that would take root and I would replay their words. And it's really been this journey for me of like, getting still, praying, going, do I feel that is true? Am I supposed to keep going? And I think about, look at you. Like, look at you. You are the very top that you can possibly be in this profession. And then 27 no's. I just want everyone to hear this because this is so good in everybody's life right now. 27 no's. Thank God for whatever reason you chose to do Hail Mary and stop at 28th and look at how everything has sort of unfolded, right, in your life.
I love it.
When we have low self-worth, it can still look like everything's great on the outside, right? There are people that are crushing it in every area of life and they are not fulfilled and they don't know why. Or they're really unhappy or they don't believe they're worthy of things and they don't know why. And they're still just striving to be enough. So when we have low self-worth, what it looks like is we feel stuck and we don't know why. We believe that we are smart and have all this skill set and we maybe have worked really, really hard. We've studied all this stuff, but we're stuck. We feel stuck and we're not going for it. And we don't know why. And that's how self-worth will show up in our lives. And it could be in your career. It could be that you are an artist and you write poetry or you paint and you still haven't shared it with the world and you don't know why. It could look like you have an amazing idea and you've been developing a plan to launch a business around it, but you keep spending 8 hours a day scrolling Instagram and you don't know why. And you're procrastinating and you don't know why. When we don't believe we are worthy of something, we will find a way to stay stuck and to not go for it at all, which is why building self-worth is so important. Now, there's a lot of us that have medium level self-worth, right? Medium or even medium high. What that looks like is we go for things, we go for them, like we go for them, but then we'll sabotage them along the way. Or we'll hit a plateau. We'll build our business to be 6 figures or 7 figures. And we hit a plateau and we don't realize it's because we actually at an identity level don't believe we're worthy of going above that. We'll be a CEO crushing it and hitting numbers in our company, but we won't share our real ideas that could take it to the next level because we don't want to take a risk because we don't quite feel worthy of it. Like that's what that looks like. And then a lot of us that have medium to high self-worth, right? What that looks like is I keep achieving everything, but I still don't feel I'm enough. I still miss fulfillment. I still feel like something's missing. So I'm just going to keep hustling, working harder and harder and harder and harder and harder. You and I are people that have so many dreams and goals and huge ambitions. And a lot of our friends do, a lot of our people we've been so blessed to meet do. One of the biggest lies, okay, and I want to just tackle this real fast, people have is, oh, if I feel like I'm enough as I am, and I'm fully worthy as I am, which you are, but if I feel I'm fully worthy as I am, maybe I'll lose my ambition and maybe I'll lose my drive. I don't want that. I like feeling like I'm never enough, so I work harder and harder. It is the biggest lie. When you feel fully worthy exactly as you are, it does not kill your ambition. It actually fuels it because now you're no longer, you don't worry anymore if you fail. Because you know it's not tied to your self-worth. You know you are rock solid enough as you are. So you actually, when you have strong self-worth, you actually take more risks. You actually have more ambition. The difference is when you achieve those things and when you serve and give and create and offer everything that's in your soul to the world, you're actually fulfilled when you do it because you feel deep down inside enough as who you are. Whether you're someone who is stuck and you don't know why, or you're someone who's crushing the world's definition of success and you don't know why you're not fulfilled, and you don't know why you still feel like it's not enough or you're not enough, it's almost always because of self-worth and learning how to raise that underneath it all.
Literally, I was going to ask you because I have like these two sides to me. One where it's like, I love the idea of you being perfect just the way you are. Like the amount of like things you can let go of, all the stress and the worry of, am I pretty enough? Do I look good enough? Am I smart enough? All of that, right? I understand it. Like it really does allow you to let go. But then the other side, that if you're enough and you're smart enough and everything, what does propel you to go for more? What does then propel you to improve, to build better skill sets? I'm not even going to say to achieve higher things. I'm just going to say to build better skill sets in whatever. Yeah. And you just answered it, because that's the disconnect sometimes that I think about and I worry about in myself, that if I think that, no, Lisa, you're perfect the way you are, then I won't keep going. And so I kind of, I liken it to, like I just have like these dual people in my head, and I've got like the one voice in my head that's like, I love you, Lisa, you're good enough. And I go, come on, what the fuck are you doing? On the other side of my brain screaming at me.
And you need both. This is the thing, you need both for fulfillment, right? To feel you are enough, worthy of love and belonging exactly as you are, and also to be growing and building self-confidence and contributing. For ultimate fulfillment, you need all that. And the biggest challenge is that most people only do the stuff where they're growing and building confidence, but underneath they don't feel enough as they are. And that's when you can do all of it and never feel fulfilled and not know why. How many people have six-pack abs, have business that are crushing it, they're doing all the things, they're on the cover of magazines, they have 50 billion followers, and they still don't feel enough, right? So they're actually not able to enjoy any of the stuff that they're doing or to feel fulfillment. So that's like the one thing, is building that sense of worthiness, that you are enough exactly as you are, and you're worthy of love and belonging exactly as you are. You're able to then enjoy it, and you also know, you know what? If I put myself out there and I fall flat on my face, it might hurt my confidence, but doesn't hurt my worth.
Dude, that's so strong. I mean, I wrote a whole book about confidence, and it never really, like I said in the book multiple times, like confidence is a muscle. It like, you have to build it, and then also it can ebb and flow. It's not like you always have the confidence. And so when I read your book and that worthy piece, I was like, oh my God, that's the underlying, the foundation to then be able to build your confidence. But if you don't actually believe in yourself and have the worth, then you're not going to go for it. Because let's say you've started It Cosmetics, right? And you've gone out and you've had 1 million rejections, but you've got one that you actually think the deal's going to come through. So you spent 3 years, you and your husband, like saving every penny, building the company, really sacrificing, and then you go to this one guy and you think the deal is done, the dreams come true. And if you don't mind sharing that story of what he says to you, because this goes to that moment again. I am obsessed with this movie, Sliding Doors. Have you ever seen it with Gwyneth Paltrow? So it's my audience heard me speak about it 1,000 times, but it's a story where she's about to board the underground, the tube, and she makes the tube, and then it cuts to a moment and it repeats where she's running for the underground and she doesn't make the tube. And these are the two paths. And you literally, throughout the whole movie, see her life going in completely opposite directions, just by making the door or not making the door. And when I think about the story that you're about to share, that moment of these two paths, where it's like one leads you to selling it to L'Oreal for 1.2 billion, and the other one leaves you on the floor crying and never making anything of yourself.
Yes. Yeah, the moments that define our destiny, right? And how we handle those moments, right? It's how we handle those moments. And, you know, so the one particular rejection that you're talking about, the story out of thousands of rejections, by the way, anybody today right now who's feeling rejected or like they're facing setbacks or any of those things, like they are never an indication of your potential for success. They are not. And the key is to never let anyone else's doubts about you turn into doubts about yourself in your own head. That is everything. Like how we handle those moments, it's not if they're going to happen or not, it's how we handle them, right? And like, what are the tools in our toolbox to pull out and decide how we're going to handle those moments can change everything, right? And so in this one example, we had faced, oh my gosh, years of rejection. We were down to no money. I didn't know how we were going to make it as a company. Everyone kept saying no and that they didn't think the business was going to work and all this. And I finally got a meeting with a potential investor who's really well-known private equity company. They're very famous for taking like a lot of small unknown brands, turning them into these big companies that all of us shop for in the grocery store or big box retailers or whatever. And I was like, oh my gosh, if they invest in us, because they got a hold of our product and really liked it, I was like, if they invest in us, like, it's going to be life-changing. Like, A, we're not going to go bankrupt. B, maybe they can use their power to get me into all these retail stores that keep telling me no, like all this stuff, right? I was like, this is huge. And so we started taking meetings and meeting after meeting after meeting. It got to the final meeting. We had lawyers involved. We were in the diligence phase, which meant they were going to acquire the business or invest a big stake. And it got down to the final meeting where I was presenting the whole product pipeline. And at the very end of the meeting, like I thought this was going to be the moment, like my saving grace, right? And the head guy was about 3 feet from me. And then his whole team was behind him and they were awesome. And he says to me, like, congratulations, you should be so proud. This is a really, really great product, but we've decided it's a no. We're going to pass on investing in It Cosmetics. Now, this was years of hundreds and hundreds of no's in. I was hoping this would be the one. And he says that to me and I say, okay, can you tell me why? Because feedback is usually a gift. And I say, can you tell me why? And he just got really quiet and he's standing about 3 feet from me. And he says, do you want me to be really honest with you? And I was like, yes, please. And then he just paused for the longest time. And I remember I started feeling my heartbeat in my ears because like, I didn't know what he was going to say. And then he says these words to me. I remember the moment his mouth started opening and he says, I just don't think women will buy makeup from someone who looks like you with your body and your weight. And when he said those words to me, I actually never felt any anger toward him. But what happened instantly was like a lifetime of self-doubt and body doubt, like flooded my body all at once. So I actually felt when he was saying these words, like I was staring my own fear straight in the eye. But the moment he said those words, I got this feeling deep down inside. I'll never forget this feeling in my gut, like my knowing, right? Not my head. My head was like lifetime of self-doubt, body doubt, I'm not enough, all that, right? the moment he said those words to me, I just don't think women will buy makeup from someone who looks like you with your body and your weight. I got this strong feeling in my gut that said, he's wrong. He's wrong. Like I felt it. Didn't know how I was going to prove it, but I felt it. Right now, Lisa, 89% of girls and women will opt out of meaningful activities with friends, with family, in public because they don't like how they look.
89%?
89%.
Holy shit.
So there is a whole chapter in here about do not wait on your weight to live your best life. I do not care what your weight is, but do not wait on your weight to live your best life. I think back to so many times in my life before I learned how to build self-worth when I waited on my weight to go on the date, to get in the photo, to attend the reunion. So many of us do this. And it's like, the time for change has come. It is why I wrote Worthy. No girl, no woman, no person left behind. 89% of us opt out of meaningful activities because we don't like how we look. What has this cost us in our life? In our relationships, in our friendships, in our joy, in our fulfillment. So in the moment this investor tells me this, and I go cry, in the next 6 years, there are moments that come to me where I'm like, okay, well, maybe I do just need to change my weight. All those things, right? But I know that's a lie. I know it in my soul. I know it in my soul. And so when we talk briefly about like the 4 R's and reframing rejection, you know, in this case, every time his words would come to my mind, where he's like, I don't believe women will buy makeup from someone who looks like you with your body and your weight, that rejection was really painful for me. And I would reframe it with and redefine it with a new definition of, okay, rejection's God's protection. Rejection's God's protection, right? For some of us, it'll be rejections, the universe's protection. And I don't know how yet, but I chose to believe it. I chose to redefine that rejection and every other one to something I believe was true so that I was not fearful of future rejections. And so even after that painful rejection, every time those words would echo back in my mind, I would instantly, like literally intercept them, replace them with, oh, no. Rejection is God's protection. I cannot wait to see what's going to happen because God has got me. And yeah, that dude didn't believe in me, but you know what? I know it's protection. I don't know how yet. And I just kept going and kept going. And 6 years later, the day L'Oreal bought our company for $1.2 billion cash, the day we had over 1,000 employees, the day we had finally become #1 in a bunch of the retailer stores we were in that had said no for years.
The day you became the very first female CEO, baby, of L'Oreal.
Yeah, first, yeah. And they're a public company. And so they did, they announced the purchase price, right? And then that I was the first female CEO of a brand in their 100+ year history. But I did not know they were going to announce the purchase price. I think I had friends and family that thought maybe business is doing well, but they didn't know, like nobody, you know what I mean? Those aren't things you just, and the day they announced the deal, it was everywhere, homepage of the Wall Street Journal. And that was the first day I heard from that guy in over 6 years. And he said, the potential investor, right? And he says, congratulations on the L'Oreal deal. I was wrong. And in that moment, you know the movie Pretty Woman?
Yes.
You know the movie Pretty Woman where she goes in the store and they won't help her?
Right?
Yeah. They won't help her. And then she goes back in a few days later. So what I wanted to say to him was, big mistake. Huge. And I wanted to go even further and go, I can give you 1.2 billion reasons why. It was a huge mistake. But I didn't say that. I kept it really, really classy because I didn't want to be him at that day. But here's what's wild, and this is why I go into reframing rejection so deeply and worthy, because so many of us have had rejection or failure in our life, and it's so painful that it keeps us stuck. And at worst, we think we're a failure, and it becomes an identity level thing. So I go deep into how do you actually reframe it. And what I want to say is that, you know, I had been telling myself for years, rejection is God's protection, around why this guy rejected me that time. And at that moment, 6 years later, when we sold to L'Oreal, what I realized is, oh my goodness, like, had he believed in me back then, I was so desperate. I probably would have given him the majority of the company for like no money. I just want to stay alive. Like, I didn't know how we were going to make it. But because he didn't believe in me, the day we sold to L'Oreal, we were the largest shareholders. And it was like, thank God he didn't believe. Rejection's God's protection. Like these things we know in our soul are true. And it's about how do we build that muscle, to use your words, how do we build that muscle and that skill set that when these things are happening to us, the setbacks, the rejections, the things that don't go our way, that we pull those tools out of the toolbox and we apply them right then and there. Okay, in this case, rejection's God's protection, and we believe it. Like, how do we apply those tools, trusting that they're right and they're true? Because that's how we build resiliency. That's how we raise our self-worth. That's how we keep going for things. That's how we don't let setbacks hold us back. Like, we believe, okay, this is a setback, but I know most setbacks are setups for what I'm called to do next. Like, I'm going to have a faith in that universe. And it's not just about, oh, let me think positive. It's like, oh, let me believe that in my soul. Let me believe this new reframe in my soul, because it is true. Like, when you check in with your soul, again, I said this earlier, every person listening to us right now, yes, your confidence can be tied to your skills and abilities, your willingness to try and go for it, how you feel you stack up against other people. You know, there's studies that show the boxer who wins the match is automatically 30% more confident afterwards, right? Our confidence rises and falls. But underneath that strong self-worth, separate from confidence, which is very important, your self-worth, this is just what I want everyone to know right now, is right now, as you are, I do not care if you are like me and you waitressed in a strip club and you waitressed at Denny's and you were doubting yourself out of your own destiny and you thought love was confused with attention, and you thought significance was an external praise, was being confused with success, and all those things, right? You thought achievement was being confused with belonging. I don't care where you're at, what past mistakes, what failures, I do not care. I don't care who you've hurt and you regret. I mean, how many mistakes you've made. Like, right now, exactly as you are fully worthy. Nobody can give it to you or take it away. Like, you just are. And I believe, Lisa, that the greatest journey we're on in this lifetime is learning how to believe and embrace that, because when we do, we are unstoppable. That's when we are unstoppable. That is when we are in alignment with our assignment. That is when we walk into our calling. That is when we stop doubting ourselves out of our own destiny. When we believe we are worthy, it changes everything for the better in our lives. For so many of us, we feel stuck, or we feel like, oh, you know, I don't have what it takes to accomplish my dreams, or to find love again, or to have healthy friendships as an adult. And we tell ourselves all these lies that lead to self-doubt, because literally, Lisa, like, we don't soar to the level of our goals and dreams. We stay stuck at the level of our self-worth. So when you change your self-worth, you change every aspect of your life. And the beautiful thing is, it does not matter where you come from. It does not matter if you have waitressed at a strip club like me. It does not matter if you have, worked hard waitressing tables at Denny's like I have, or if you've built $1 billion business like I have. None of that actually matters. Like, you're fully worthy exactly as you are. And when we learn to unlearn those lies that lead to self-doubt and literally wake up our worthiness, it's the one thing that will change everything in our life.
Ladies and gentlemen, rock this house and welcome to the stage, Jamie Kern Lima! Jamie Kern Lima!
Every single one of us has had someone tell us we're not enough. Every single one of us has had someone say words to us that hurt.